Welcome to this Help to Buy webinar. After run a couple of these before and had a lot of feedback to sort of continue running them because there's been quite a few changes to Help to Buy recently. So a little bit early, webinar's due to start at 6 and we're going to wait for some people to come and attend. So we'll get some more additions whilst we're live and waiting for people to sort of join in. Yeah, there's been some quite big changes to the Help to Buy rules, and what we'll do is we'll go through that throughout the course of this webinar, and while we're waiting for some people to sort of also attend. So we'll go through the changes to Help to Buy rules. We've had some pre-submitted questions via Instagram and Facebook before, and some emailed in, so we'll go through those as well. I've got those here, and then we'll open the floor to other questions as well, because I appreciate there might be some burning sort of questions in there. What else is worth noting? So once again, want to make clear, you can't consider this as financial advice. You need to offer that health warning as with anything we put out there, and people still join in. So I'm just letting people into the waiting room and into the webinar itself. And there are ways of submitting the questions as well. We've got one of my colleagues is looking at the Facebook live stream, so you should be able to keep an eye on that. I'll have a little peek at that as well. There is also a way to submit questions via this as well. I think on yeah, you're able to actually sort of pop a question onto here, and I should be able to see it and then respond to it. But we'll respond to the questions at the end of the meeting, the presentation. So only going to be about 15 or 20 minutes or so, but just to give you an overview of Help to Buy, how it can help you with your purchase, pros and cons, what the rules are, and what the big changes are, because it has changed quite significantly. So just still admitting people coming in. We're a minute past 6, so we can get started. So yeah, let's start with an overview of Help to Buy itself. So this was introduced, I think, originally in about 2013-14 as a way of helping people get onto the ladder or helping them to upsize. Now, there's been a significant change as of last year, which we'll go through, but the Help to Buy itself, a brief overview of how it works. It's there to help first-time buyers with an equity loan of up to 20% of a property value. And so therefore a buyer would only need a 5% deposit on a registered Help to Buy new build property. Why this is important? We've got another attendee there, so just letting somebody else into the waiting room and into the webinar itself. So just quickly go over that again, because and another person join in as well. So I will rewind and start those last couple of sentences again for their benefit. So yeah, as mentioned, the main thing was to sort of go over the Help to Buy scheme. Brief overview. It's there to help first-time buyers with an equity loan of up to 20% of the property value. Therefore, a buyer would only need 5% deposit on a registered Help to Buy new build property. Key thing as to why that's important and how that can help people, it can reduce the interest rates that somebody pays on a purchased property, and it can help them just afford that little bit more expensive property than they would be able to afford otherwise. And then it can also actually increase the mortgage loan that you're offered from a lender in terms of the amount. So if you only have a 5% deposit, a lender may reduce the income multiple that they're willing to lend you, which means that they'll lend you a little bit less money because they deem you high risk if you only have 5% deposit. But of course, with the sorry, just admitting somebody else into the room there. But of course, with the government lending an extra or getting a 20% equity, then this means that the income multiples will be overridden, and a lender may be more generous in that process. So it can help you actually secure a little bit more borrowing, but the key thing here is, well, it can significantly reduce the interest rates and your monthly payments on this. So just an example earlier, so I do run About Mortgages Limited as well as the At Home Estate Agent. So looking at sort of some of the interest rates today, if you were to say, for example, buy a £200,000 property with a £10,000 deposit, if it's on a Help to Buy, it'd be the cost of the equity loan, which is £1 per year for the first 5 years. I'll go into what happens after those 5 years shortly. But on a 5-year fixed rate, you can get a 2.54% rate if you've got the Help to Buy scheme, and that equates to about £675.95 per month. It's the cheapest sort of interest rate available on a 5-year fixed with the Help to Buy scheme. That same property of £200,000, if you've only got that £10,000 deposit, the cheapest rate you can get in that instance would be 3.18% with no product fees, which equates to £918.89 per month. So same property, Help to Buy means that you're actually sort of about £243 cheaper per month, which is obviously quite a significant amount. So that's where it can really help people manage their finances to get onto the ladder and maybe to sort of and buy a slightly bigger property than they would have before, which just means that they can live in that property for a little bit longer and move less frequently. Some of the biggest costs are in buying and selling. So there's some quite good pros there. There are also some other things that you need to consider as part of the process, and we'll go into that. However, some of the recent changes, so it used to be open to anyone, Help to Buy, as long as you're buying up to £600,000. Now it's restricted to first-time buyers only. So if you or your partner are not a first-time buyer, if you've owned a property anywhere in the world, you cannot access the Help to Buy scheme. So that's a bit of a dampener on that. That can affect sort of obviously a couple where one has previously owned and you're looking to buy together. Also, there's a regional price cap. That price cap in the southeast of England is £437,600, which is down from 600,000. So obviously, with house price inflation, that is reducing the size of the property that you can sort of purchase on a first-time purchase. Normally, first-time buyers go straight in for £600,000 property, though, to be fair. And yeah, so that's the key changes. It's now for first-time buyers only, and not just for sort of anyone. And there's a cap on the price that you can buy. How do you pay it back? That's a question that we've been asked a bit, and a mechanism that you need to be aware of. So the great thing is, for the first 5 years, it's interest-free. It's an interest-free sort of effectively equity loan. And I think it's £1 a month. You have to pay a token sort of peppercorn amount to keep it running. But then after 5 years, it's a 1.75% interest rate, and that increases with the consumer price index, or inflation, as you might call it. Now, really important point on that at the moment is, with interest rates increasing, that's actually looking really attractive. Like sort of the standard mortgage rate, as I say, is on that sort of person that's buying a £200,000 property with the Help to Buy scheme is 2.54%. It's the cheapest interest rate. The government side of that is 1.75%. And increasing each year with the CPI, but that's quite actually attractive, and especially if you're signing up to that now, if interest rates go up a few percentage points in the next few years, that is going to be a very cheap source of money, and would be incredibly attractive, I think, to most people at the end of 5 years, especially the first 5 years. There's no interest payments by that token, peppercorn payment of £1 a month. After 5 years, you don't have to sell the property, but if you do sell the property, you would pay back the government, the Help to Buy scheme, 20% of the property value. So if it's gone up, say £30,000, then you don't have that £30,000 equity. The government will have 20% of that £30,000 equity. So just remember, it's an equity loan. The government gets a stake in the property. However, after you can also pay back either 10 or 20% of the equity loan at market value at any point. Now, if you're to repay the loan as well, if you're selling, it will have not just your estate agent valuing the property. It will also have a Help to Buy registered surveyor come out and provide a valuation to make sure that it's been sold at fair value as well. And that's the percent. It'll be 20% of that Help to Buy surveyor valuation that you have to pay back to the Help to Buy scheme. Or if you wanted to pay back independently 10 or 20% of the loan, then they would have to sort of instruct a Help to Buy surveyor there, and it's what they feel the property is worth. So just to be aware of that. What properties are available? Are they available on? it is only new builds, and it is only properties that are registered with a Help to Buy scheme. So, you know, it can be flats, can be houses, but they have to be registered with a Help to Buy scheme. Obviously, there's a lot of new builds sort of going on at the moment. So, you know, there's lots of options, certainly a lot coming on stream as well, that we're seeing sort of in the town centre and surrounding areas. But that developer, it will be clearly advertised as Help to Buy, because obviously they want people to be aware of that. It will increase their size of their market. How do you apply? So obviously you need to find the right property, but you also need to register with a Help to Buy scheme. So what you really need is a Help to Buy specialist mortgage advisor, such as About Mortgages. Again, they're registered Help to Buy specialists, and because there's a few things that you need to check, sort of which you wouldn't be able to do with just a standard mortgage advisor. There's a few calculators that need to be run, and you need to be registered onto the Help to Buy scheme, which again the specialist mortgage advisor would be able to undertake on your behalf. I think that kind of covers the broad overview of the Help to Buy scheme. There were some questions submitted, but what we'll also do is as I start going through some of the questions, is if people want to sort of start adding their own questions as well, and we can sort of intersperse some of the pre-registered questions as well, and answers with sort of live questions and answers that we're receiving at the moment. So I'm just going to quickly go onto the Facebook page as well and see if there's been any questions come from there. Can't see that. And right, but yeah, type away if you have any questions based on what I've said. Hopefully that's been a really useful overview of Help to Buy and how it works. If you miss any bit, or if I wasn't clear on any point, please get a question over or email us in later, or even if you want to book an appointment with the Help to Buy specialist mortgage advisor, we can arrange that for you as well. One of the questions that came in, can I use Help to Buy on any properties? I think, yeah, we kind of covered that during the course of the webinar, but no, it has to be a Help to Buy a registered property, and it can only be new build. Now, a question has come in from the floor as well. Can you transfer a Help to Buy mortgage to a new lender after you've set it up? Now, it depends, sort of trying to interpret that question, so I'll give you the correct answer. To a new lender after. So, well, there are options. So, like, it depends whether you get a 2 or 5 year fixed mortgage, and I need to be careful that I don't border into specific financial advice. I just always like to put that caveat out there, because there's like standard health warnings you need to do. But after that fixed rate, after that fixed period of the mortgage, you tend to have to get a mortgage that works with the Help to Buy scheme. But of course, what you can do after 5 years, what we're seeing a lot of, is where people's incomes tend to go up. And this thing to remember is partly it's to help people get onto the ladder. And naturally, it tends to be sort of first-time buyers' incomes will tend to sort of increase at a faster pace than people that are getting a bit longer in the tooth like me, so they'll increase at a faster rate. So hopefully at the end of that 5 years, they might be in a position where their income allows them to buy out the whole of the Help to Buy scheme, and then they can just get a standard, you know, plain vanilla mortgage. Hopefully they've got a bit more equity in the property because it's gone up in value, and then they can just approach the whole market for the best deal out there. And the real benefit of that, so of course you're losing that interest-free period or that very low interest equity loan, but of course any future growth would be 100% yours. So at that point, yeah, if you're buying the Help to Buy scheme out, then you can approach any lender. Otherwise, you know, it does need to work with a sort of a mortgage that works with the Help to Buy scheme. Right, hopefully that answered that. What I've interpreted what you're asking there. So if I haven't, please do clarify, and I can go over that again. Another question that came in on my list here: what are the benefits? I think in a nutshell, I think I've mentioned a lot of them, but it's helping people to get onto the ladder. Key one is that reduced monthly payments. It's going to sort of save you a lot of money and a very attractive interest rate, you know, of basically nothing the first 5 years, and then 1.75% after 5 years, which increases with the CPI rate of inflation. That's Consumer Price Index. We do know inflation is going up at the moment, but it's that inflationary increase on 1.75%. So even in, say, CPI is like 5%, it'd be a 5% increase on 1.75%, which would just take it only to, you know, less than 1.85% interest rate the year after. So actually, it's, even with inflation, that is still quite, well, very attractive. Other benefits, of course, gets you onto the ladder, gets you onto sort of a nice new property, and also potentially in a property that might have been a bit larger than you could have afforded before. And why that can be important is, if you can eke out an extra couple of years in a property, you know, you'd be surprised the amount of mortgages that we do, and it's like, oh, I found the perfect apartment, we're going to be in there for years and years and years. 2 or 3 years later, our clients come back, it's like, yeah, we've outgrown this, so we need to move. Huge costs in buying and selling. So actually, if it just helps you sort of afford something that you're in for a little bit longer, then that can actually sort of help with your longer term costs of living and moving. So that is kind of a benefit that most people don't realize at the time. So that can be quite useful. I think it'll cover most of the key benefits there. Right, so we've got one. How does this work with stamp duty? Well, now, first-time buyers are stamp duty have a stamp duty exemption up to the first 300,000. So it's kind of separate to the stamp duty, but it's kind of, I guess, there's a link in that it's for first-time buyers only. So there will be stamp duty exemption on the first 300,000. So again, nice little bonus for first-time buyers there. So if somebody was buying at the maximum that was available at, what was that, 437,600, they would only pay the stamp duty on the difference of the purchase price minus that £300,000 exemption. So and that can be very attractive from an initial cost point of view as well. Yes, yeah, I hopefully cover the next question, but I think it's really, really key to reiterate, is this available if you're a first-time buyer but your partner isn't? No, it's not. It used to be, but it's not anymore. So I'm not saying you should choose a life partner based on whether they've owned a property or not before, but you just need to be aware that you would not be eligible to the Help to Buy scheme if that partner has previously owned a property. Okay, how far in advance can you apply for an equity loan? So this question's just come in as well. So it's at the point that you actually secure the property that you can apply for the loan. So but what you do is see a mortgage advisor, a specialist mortgage advisor, because you have to be registered with the Help to Buy scheme, because they need to know that you are competent and qualified in that area. So you see a Help to Buy specialist mortgage advisor, and they can sort of, and I'd encourage anyone to do that as soon as possible, because what a key part of a mortgage advisor is sometimes is actually helping you plan. It might be like, right, this is what you can do now, but if you do X, Y, and Z, this is what you can do in 3, 6 months or a year or whatever. So I would say for anybody considering this, see a specialist Help to Buy mortgage advisor as soon as possible, so you know what you can and can't do. But in terms of how far in advance you can apply for the equity loan, it's at the point of application. So and that's when you're sort of when you've secured the property and you're applying for the mortgage at the same time. So what would the process be? You register for Help to Buy, and it all works there, and we put in the property details, property information form. You've seen the mortgage advisor before you've gone to see the property. You put your holding reservation fee down on the property, and then we apply for the Help to Buy scheme that way. But we would make sure that you can go through that scheme before we put you through that process. So a lot of developers will work with, like I say, the specialist Help to Buy mortgage advisors, because they'll make sure that those people can then proceed to buy. So yes, you can't secure sort of the money before you found a property. I hope that answers the question, but I would encourage anyone to speak to a mortgage advisor as soon as possible, just so they know what they can do and they can't. Sometimes people are pleasantly surprised, and sometimes you have to put a plan into place, and in a few months' time it gets you there. But if you don't have that plan in place, and you never know when it's going to be the right time to buy. And with rents out there as well at the moment, they are ridiculous at the moment. So it's sort of actually getting your foot on the ladder isn't a bad thing. Can I add somebody to the Help to Buy agreement after it's started? Unfortunately, well, you can, as long as they haven't owned a property before. So they have to qualify for the scheme to be able to sort of move into to be registered onto the Help to Buy scheme with your particular property. So again, it's just be careful about life partners out there. Just make sure that they're first-time buyers as well. If you're thinking of sort of getting them on the deeds and the scheme there, but yeah, that unfortunately they have to. Again, that's been one of the key changes. They have to qualify for the scheme. Question just come in. Can you touch on deposit? Absolutely. So you need a minimum of a 5% deposit to put down onto the Help to Buy scheme. So you know, so that can make something a lot more achievable rather than lenders will lend to somebody with a 5% deposit. It's a lot cheaper on your monthly payments and your interest rate if you go via the Help to Buy scheme. And so I think that's the key thing on deposit. You need a minimum of a 5%. You can have more than a 5% deposit, but you do need a minimum of 5% deposit. So that's then effectively the equity loan makes up the other 20%, and that's why you can then access a much better rate of mortgage, because the lender will see as less risk, because effectively government's taking 20% of the risk, you've got 5% of the risk. There's only 75% of the property value that's at risk for the lender. So that's why they'll offer you more attractive terms. Hopefully that answers the question that was being asked there, but please do let me know if that doesn't, or if you need clarification there. Can I buy a freehold house using Help to Buy? Yeah, absolutely. You can buy a freehold house or leasehold apartment. Yeah, as long as it's within that price range of up to 437,600 in the southeast of England. I'm assuming most of the people attending here are southeast of England, because we don't have that reach outside of the local area, but yeah, 437,600 in the local area. It can be freehold or leasehold property. Another question that came in via Instagram. How can I tell which properties are eligible for Help to Buy? Well, when you go and see the agent, or you go onto one of the online portals, or you go to developer, they will have Help to Buy splattered all over it, because of course it's an excellent marketing tool for them, because they know it makes it more accessible to people. So it will be very clear what's got Help to Buy. So usually even on the portals, on the online advert, they'll have that little Help to Buy logo, if you've seen that, kind of like greenhouse with a circle, almost a circle around it. So yeah, it will usually, it'd be daft if there wasn't that sort of indication on the portal. So it'll be a new build property, and pretty much all new builds up to that value will be on the Help to Buy scheme, because it's not actually terribly difficult for a developer to sort of go through the registration process there. So you'll find that pretty much every property below 437,600 will be on the Help to Buy scheme, but just look out for that little logo, or ask the agent or developer that you're talking to. Okay, so other questions that came in. Can I use the scheme as a home mover if you're selling your house? Unfortunately, not anymore. Again, it has to be a first-time buyer. So again, it's a great thing before. Anyone could use it as long as it's below £600,000 purchase price. But unfortunately, no, not now. You have to be a first-time buyer. A couple more questions that were submitted prior. Just seeing if there's any more questions coming in, and I'll just quickly check Facebook as well, because sometimes we get a few questions submitted that way. No, nothing there. So let's go to some of the ones that came in via Instagram beforehand. Does it matter? Oh, yeah, good question. Does it make the process of buying harder or longer? It can a little bit, because effectively you've got more parties involved in the transaction, so it can just make it a little bit more laborious, and on the sales process as well, because the Help to Buy scheme has to almost decommission it, as it were, on the sale, so that can provide a headache for solicitors. Obviously another party to deal with for solicitors, so you'll usually find they charge a little bit more for Help to Buy scheme, because they've got to deal with the government as well, or government body, and that's not usually fun for them. So it can mean that there's a little bit more work in the background there. However, a lot of developers will really sort of push for 28-day exchanges. So as long as the legals are all there and correctly presented, then there's no reason why that couldn't happen. But there is just a bit more work that goes on in the background there. Shouldn't mean too much extra work, sort of for the actual buyer itself. It tends to be more for the mortgage advisor and the solicitor, and that's why just get a good solicitor and a good qualified Help to Buy specialist mortgage advisor as well. Okay, from Michelle, how does Help to Buy differ to shared ownership? Are they different schemes? Yeah, pretty much. So in a way, so Help to Buy is obviously giving you the equity, an equity loan against a property. Now, shared ownership, it doesn't have to be a new build property. You do seem to see a lot of new builds go up because usually you have to have a certain percentage that are shared ownership and deemed as affordable. But shared ownership, a shared ownership company might own 25, 50 or 65% of the property, and then you rent that portion off them, and then you get a normal mortgage for the rest, and you own whatever portion is left. So shared ownership can be really useful in other circumstances. Usually do find that the shared ownership rent side is actually quite expensive. So if people have the money to be able to sort of actually own more of the property or use a Help to Buy scheme, it can prove cheaper in the long run, but it is another scheme that can help people get onto the ladder, because they might only have to be sort of raising a mortgage and deposit and finance on 35% of the value of the property rather than say 75% plus their 5% deposit. Okay, so next question that came in, what's the options after the initial 5-year period as well? So yes, we did go through this earlier, but again, you can buy out the loan itself, you can sell, you can keep the loan going. So yeah, the thing with the keeping the loan going as well is such cheap interest rates that could be quite attractive. But it's basically up to you, is whether you're going to upsize or buy off the loan so that you own all the equity, or just keep it going as a quite cheap cheap sort of loan on the remaining 20%. Okay. Now, questions come in, and in terms of is shared ownership similar to rent to buy? So this is a bit more sort of focused on Help to Buy. So I'm going to park that question for a minute, just in case a couple of people have left. So I want to make sure I get the Help to Buy specific questions through first, and then I'll touch on that if that's okay. What deposit do I need? Actually, this is the last question that was submitted prior. Again, a minimum of 5% deposit of the value of the home. So yeah, in terms of deposit that you need, it is just 5%. Now, so yeah, shared ownership is similar to rent. Shared ownership similar to rent to buy? It is different. Rent to buy allows buyers to rent a property for up to 5 years at a discounted rent. I haven't really seen any sort of available, but I'm sure we might see that a little bit more. But at the end of the rental period, you can then buy the property. The idea is obviously the money that you're saving in rent over the rental period can be put towards the deposit to then actually buy the property itself. So shared ownership, you are paying rent on the actual and it tends to be quite high rent, if I'm brutally honest, as well, on the sort of shared ownership scheme there. So it helps people get onto the ladder, but I think always, again, do the math with a mortgage advisor as well, and see actually, shared ownership helps you get on the ladder, but are you able to do other alternatives such as Help to Buy or buy outright? I think that looks like that's potentially exhausting the questions. If anybody has any, please submit them now. Forever hold your peace, as it were. I'm just seeing, I can't see any questions on via Facebook. No more questions coming in. We've exhausted all the previously submitted questions, so I hope that's been really useful. So, like I say, key thing is speak to your mortgage advisor early on. I mentioned about mortgages are Help to Buy specialist based in Southwater. We've got office in Horsham as well. They're specialists in Help to Buy mortgages. So just get your conversations in early there, and they can help guide you on that. And of course, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to sort of email them in if they think of anything after that. So, you know, I'll email addresses are on the websites and on our Facebook page. But I hope that's been useful for everyone, and thank you so much for attending, and hope it's been useful. Thank you.